Hello guys, welcome back to Lillian Channel 6. Today I'm going to be reading you a story about Painter and Ugly. Painter and Ugly by Robert J. Blake. Painter and Ugly were best friends. Through winter, spring, summer, and fall, they were always together. Nothing could keep them apart. After every sled racing season, the boy called Jake always left his dog team to run free on an island on the Yukon River. He was good to the team and every day returned with fresh water, food, and hugs for each dog. Jack prized every one of his dogs, especially the two that were always together. He named one Painter when he knocked over a can of paint. He named the other Ugly because most of the paint spit on him. You saw Painter, there you saw Ugly. If Painter went to fetch a stick, Ugly brought it back with him. If Ugly howled at the moon, Painter sang harmony. And when Jake built Painter's house too far away from Ugly's, the dogs pushed it down all the way down the hill and set it next to his best friends. Through the warm days of summer, right into fall, Painter and Ugly ran together, swam together, and even ate out of each other's dinner bowls together. And if for any reason they were apart, one dog would call out,
Yep, yep.
And the other would answer,
Yep, yep.
And soon the friends were running side by side as fast as they could. One day, Jake did not come with food, water, or hugs. Instead, there came a man with a voice like chainsaw who herded the dogs onto the boat. Painter was happy to go on a boat because it meant that the team was going to the mainland. And going to the mainland meant that race training was about to begin. And race training meant that Painter and Ugly, the fastest of all the local dogs, would soon be leading Jake and the team in the junior Iditarod race.
Yep.
Painter called, and Ugly ran to join him at the front of the boat. But when the team reached the mainland, there was still no Jake. There were only people shouting and waving papers.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Big Tonka cried out when he was hauled off by a woman in a beaver coat. Keeney growled as he was taken off by a hairy man who smelled of bacon. Painter tried to slip out of his collar when a red-haired boy pulled him away from Ugly. Ugly jumped from side to side when a black-haired boy rushed him away from his friend. Each dog was placed into a different box on a different truck. Every truck drove each dog to a different home. On his new dog lot, Painter peeked out of his doghouse at the other dogs. They all knew each other. Painter knew none of them.
Yep.
He called out to Ugly, but no answer came. Painter was surrounded by dogs, but somehow he felt alone. On his first training run, Painter was distracted as he looked for his best friend. He yipped at every team they passed, hoping Ugly would yip back. He missed commands, took wrong turns, and even ran the team up over a snowbank where he thought he caught his friend's scent in the woods. The red-haired boy had to wade into the thigh-high snow to untangle the team. Then he took Painter's face in his hands and said, "You got to earn your place on the team." Painter did not understand the words, but he felt the tone in the boy's voice. He settled down and then easily impressed the musher. By the time they were on their third practice run, Painter had earned the lead position. Then came Junior Iditarod race day. 200 dogs on 20 teams. Every dog was barking, rolling in the snow, and leaping high in the air, all except one. Painter stood still, with his nose tasting the air. Rushing across the frozen river and through the race grounds, the wind delivered the smells and sounds of each team, and it brought Painter one familiar scent, Ugly. 8 teams had already left when it was Painter's team's turn in the starting chute. The dogs barked and howled, screamed and cried, and then suddenly the whole team went silent. They were ready to take off. Soon, The only sounds that could be heard were the jingling of the dog's tail, jing, 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 and the hiss of the sled runners on the snow. After 80 miles of racing, Painter's team arrived at the halfway checkpoint, just 15 minutes behind the first place team. Here, the teams were required to stop and rest for 10 hours. The red-haired boy gave the dogs food, water, and soft hay bedding to sleep on. As the teams left, Painter sat looking, sniffing, listening, hoping for a sign of his friend. Then, across the chill night, came a familiar call.
Yip, yip. Yip, yip.
Painter called back. Quiet, called a musher. The dogs were silent. But all through the night, just every once in a while, a soft yip ran across the night air.
Yip, yip.
And another yip chased it back.
Yip, yip.
At dawn, a great chorus of howls arose from a team behind a nearby snowdrift. They got louder and louder until suddenly they were silent. Painter knew this meant the first place team had hit the trail. He cocked his ears and listened to the jing, jing, jing of the team's tags. Painter leaped into the air when the team sprinted into view. Ugly was the lead dog. Ugly signaled to Painter by flicking his ears and letting out 3 quick yips.
Yip, yip, yip.
Painter answered with 3 quick yips of his own.
Yip, yip, yip.
Then Ugly and his team were gone. Up ahead, Ugly brought his team across the frozen Yentna River. When they reached the other side, his musher gave the commands to turn left. Ha! But Ugly did not turn his team. Instead, he called out, yip, 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 and jumped off the trail into a low brush. When Painter reached the same turn, he called out,
Yip, yip, yip.
and jumped into the woods too. A mile into the woods, Painter's team came upon the black-haired boy, alone in the snow. Ugly had led his team under some low branches, forcing the musher to jump from his sled. The red-haired boy ran to him as soon as he could slow his team. Are you all right? He called. Painter called out too.
Yip, yip, yip.
Then he howled. From below the ridge came the answer.
Yip, yip, yip.
Before the boys could stop them, Painter and his team ran off. Soon, the only sound that could be heard was that of a lonely raven calling in the chill air, until the wind brought the sound of something approaching from under the ridge. Jing, jing, jing. Together at last, Painter and Ugly waited for no one. The teams ran hard to keep up with their leaders, and the boys ran hard to catch up with their sleds. Just as the dogs reached the frozen river, the 2 mushers jumped on sled runners and called faster to their teams. Painter and Ugly knew they had to run full out to catch up to the teams that had gotten ahead of them while they were off the trail. But running full out together is what they liked best. Once they reached the zone called the No Man's Land, Painter and Ugly passed every dog in sight. Painter and Ugly crossed the finish line at exactly the same time together. Not a nose, not even one whisker stood out farther in front of one dog than the other. People would talk about that race forever. What happened, how it happened, and why it happened. In a way that people do. But Painter and Ugly, they never cared about people's talk. Painter and Ugly only cared about being together. Because nothing can keep 2 real friends apart. I drew this drawing in dedication of this wonderful, heartwarming, and awesome book. It has inspired me to show this to you, read this book out to you, and I spent a lot of time and effort on it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe. Thank you.